Have you ever struggled to open a simple jar or hold a pen without pain? It's a quiet frustration many of us don't talk about, but it's real, and it can slowly steal away the little joys in life. I remember feeling that exact ache in my fingers, the stiffness in the morning that made even buttoning my shirt feel like a challenge. It's hard not to feel a bit defeated when the hands that once did so much suddenly won't cooperate. I get it because I've been there too, feeling that mix of disappointment and helplessness. But here's the good news. There's an easy, natural way to ease that pain and gently restore movement. No complicated treatments or expensive medicines required. It's a simple remedy, something you might even find right in your kitchen, that can make a real difference in how your hands feel day by day. In the next few minutes, I'll share with you this little secret oil blend that has helped many older women regain strength and reduce pain in their hands. It's not magic, but it's close enough to feel like it. Imagine waking up to softer, more flexible fingers, ready to embrace the activities you love once again. So tell me, have you tried anything like this before? How has arthritis affected your daily life? You deserve to live well with hands that serve you without pain. Let's explore this journey together. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. Now, let's begin. What is arthritis and why does it affect the hands? It's a strange thing how a word you might hear on the news, read in a magazine, or overhear in the doctor's waiting room can seem so distant for most of your life. Just another bit of medical jargon. Arthritis. It rolls off the tongue in a way that doesn't sound particularly frightening. For years, I thought it was simply an ailment that other people suffered, something you read about but never truly worried would happen to you. Yet one day, almost out of nowhere, the meaning of that word changed completely. It became not just a diagnosis, but a daily companion, something that shaped the course of my mornings and the quiet moments before bed. If you're anything like me, or like so many of our friends who have weathered the years with grace and strength, you may have noticed the small, almost unnoticeable changes at first. Maybe it was a tightness in your fingers when you tried to open your eyes and stretch at dawn, or a nagging ache that appeared when you reached for your coffee mug. At first, you might have brushed it off, thinking it was simply the result of gardening a little too long or perhaps a remnant from a chilly afternoon spent walking in the park. But as the days turned into weeks, the stiffness didn't leave. Instead, it lingered and slowly made itself at home until one day you realized that For many of us, arthritis comes as an unwelcome guest in our later years. Its presence is often silent at first, a background whisper that gradually grows louder. And for reasons both scientific and, I sometimes think, a little bit mysterious, it loves to settle in our hands. Our hands, those marvelous tools that built families, created meals, wrote letters, and held the hands of loved ones, become the battlegrounds for this chronic inflammation. But why the hands? Why not just the knees or the hips or some other part of our bodies that we don't notice quite as much in our daily lives? The answer, in many ways, lies in the design of our hands themselves. Think about how many times you use your fingers in a single day to hold a fork, tie shoelaces, button a shirt, or brush your hair. Each of these actions requires a complex ballet of small joints, tendons, and ligaments working together in harmony. With every squeeze, twist, or pinch, those tiny joints take on the burden of a lifetime's worth of motion. Arthritis, in the simplest terms, is inflammation of the joints. But the truth is, it's so much more than that. In the hands, the condition most often comes as osteoarthritis or rheumatoid arthritis. Osteoarthritis is like the slow wearing away of the protective cartilage that cushions the bones where they meet. Over time, that cushion gets thinner and thinner until bone begins to rub against bone. This not only causes pain, but can also make the joints swollen, stiff, and tender to the touch. Rheumatoid arthritis, on the other hand, is a different beast entirely. A condition where the body's immune system mistakenly attacks the lining of the joints, causing swelling and, in time, deformity and loss of function. No matter the type, the effects on daily life are profound. The simple act of making a fist or wrapping your fingers around a loved one's hand becomes a reminder of what arthritis has taken. Sometimes the pain is dull and constant, like a gentle pressure that never quite goes away. Other times it's sharp, catching you by surprise as you try to unscrew a lid or hold a paintbrush. And of course, there's the morning stiffness, those long, frustrating minutes after you wake up when your hands feel like they belong to someone else, stubbornly refusing to move until they've been coaxed and warmed back to life. In these moments, it's easy to feel betrayed by your own body. The hands you relied on for decades, the ones that wrote stories, fixed broken toys, and sewed on missing buttons, suddenly don't respond as they once did. It's not just an inconvenience, it's a loss of independence, a subtle erosion of confidence, and sometimes even a source of embarrassment. There's a unique pain in having to ask someone else for help with a task you've done 1,000 times before. Everyday challenges caused by arthritis. As the weeks go by, the everyday challenges caused by arthritis become more and more. Tasks that once seemed automatic are now filled with small moments of struggle and, if I'm being honest, occasional flashes of frustration or even sadness. It's the way you hesitate before picking up a glass of water, wondering if your grip will be strong enough, or the way you dread the simple act of twisting off a cap, knowing it will send a bolt of pain through your fingers. I remember standing in my kitchen one winter morning, looking at a jar of strawberry jam I had bought for my granddaughter's favorite toast. It seemed like a trivial thing, opening a jar, but on that morning, my hands simply would not cooperate. I tried wrapping a towel around the lid, running it under warm water, and even tapping the edges on the counter. But no matter how much I tried, the lid wouldn't budge. I stood there, alone in my kitchen, feeling that familiar ache rising in my joints, a gentle but insistent reminder of my limits. What surprised me most, though, wasn't the physical pain, but the emotional sting that followed. It wasn't just about jam. It was about being able to do something nice for someone I loved. It was about pride, about feeling capable and useful in my own home. For a moment, I felt small and defeated, a feeling I hadn't known since I was a child. Of course, arthritis doesn't stop in the kitchen. It follows you throughout the day, weaving its way into everything you do. Brushing your teeth becomes a careful negotiation between the desire to do a thorough job and the need to avoid aggravating your knuckles. Folding laundry feels like running a marathon. Each shirt or towel is an obstacle to be conquered. Even writing a simple grocery list can become an exercise in patience as your once steady handwriting trembles with each stroke of the pen. It's the little things that add up. You notice how you avoid hobbies you once loved, knitting, sewing, playing cards, because the fine motor movements are too taxing, the pleasure of the pastime dulled by the knowledge that it will cost you hours of soreness. You learn to budget your energy, saving your hands for what matters most. Sometimes you find yourself quietly bowing out of social activities, not because you don't want to be there, but because you're embarrassed by your fumbling fingers or afraid of dropping something in public. In the background of all this, there's a quiet grief, a mourning for the small freedoms that have slipped away. No one warns you about this, the way arthritis can change, not just your hands, but your sense of self. It's a lesson in humility, yes, but also a lesson in resilience, because for every moment of frustration, there is a stubborn determination to find ways to adapt, to keep living life on your terms, no matter how many workarounds it takes. For many of us, these challenges aren't just physical. They're emotional too. There's a vulnerability that comes with asking for help. And yet, in these moments, I found a kind of grace, a reminder that we are not alone, that there are people who care enough to lend a hand even when our own hands fail us. Personal stories. 1. The painter. Let me share with you the story of my dear friend Juan. If you ever met Juan, you'd remember him. He was the kind of man who always had a smile ready and a twinkle of mischief in his eyes. He'd spent most of his life as a painter, not the kind who paints walls, but the kind who brings canvases to life with color and imagination. For decades, Juan's hands were his livelihood, his joy, and, in many ways, his legacy. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. I still remember the first time I saw one of Juan's landscapes, fields of golden wheat under a sky streaked with lavender and rose, each blade of grass rendered with a careful attention of someone who truly loved what he did. He painted every day, sometimes for hours at a time, lost in the world of his creation. His hands, stained with flecks of blue and ochre, seemed tireless and strong. But then, slowly, things began to change. At first, it was just a bit of soreness after a long day in his studio. He joked about it, saying he was finally getting old, but the soreness turned into stiffness, and the stiffness turned into pain. One morning, Juan confided in me that he had struggled to hold his smallest brush, the one he used for painting fine details. His fingers trembled, not with nerves, but with the ache that came from deep within his joints. I used to take these hands for granted, he said, looking down at them with a bittersweet smile. Now every stroke is a battle. He tried everything: over-the-counter pain relievers, hot compresses, even expensive creams he saw advertised on TV. Some days were better than others, but the pain always returned. It wasn't just about the painting, he told me. It was about losing a part of himself, the part that found peace and happiness in the act of creation. It was about missing the quiet hours in his studio, the satisfaction of signing his name in the corner of a finished piece. One afternoon, I visited Juan and found him sitting by the window, his palette untouched, his brushes neatly arranged but unused. He stared out at his backyard where the afternoon sun painted golden stripes across the grass. I asked if he planned to work on his latest canvas. He shook his head, then lifted his hands for me to see. His knuckles were swollen, his fingers curled in on themselves. Stubborn, there's a way to find my way back. And that, in the end, is what so many of us are searching for. A way back. A way to reclaim the parts of ourselves that arthritis has threatened to take away. For Juan, it was painting. For me, it was writing letters to my grandchildren, baking bread on Sunday mornings, or simply being able to zip up my coat on a cold day. The journey with arthritis is different for each of us. Some days are harder than others, and some challenges feel insurmountable. But in sharing our stories, like mine, like yours, we remind one another that we are not defined by what we can no longer do. Instead, we are defined by our courage, our adaptability, and our willingness to keep moving forward, no matter how slowly. So, if you find yourself struggling with the small things, if you've ever stood in your kitchen holding a stubborn jar or looked at your hands in frustration, know that you are not alone. We are all learning to live with these changes, to grieve what we've lost, and to celebrate what we can still do. Sometimes it's in the smallest victories. The jar that finally opens, the letter written in shaky script, the brush lifted for just a few careful strokes, that we find the deepest joy. Arthritis may change the way we live, but it doesn't get the final say. Our stories, our art, our kindness, and our perseverance, these are the things that endure. The science behind clove and olive oil. There's a familiar comfort in the routine of a doctor's visit, the white coat, the gentle but hurried questions, the tapping of keys into a computer as your list of symptoms grows longer with every passing year. For those of us who have lived long enough to see medical miracles we couldn't have imagined in our youth, there's deep gratitude for the leaps and bounds of modern medicine. Just think about it. Heart surgeries that save lives, medicines that control diabetes and high blood pressure, new vaccines and treatments that once sounded like science fiction. Yet for all its marvels, medicine isn't always perfect, especially when it comes to the pain and frustration of arthritis in the hands. Modern solutions sometimes feel incomplete. Maybe you, like me, have left a doctor's office with a prescription for painkillers or anti-inflammatory pills, only to find the relief fleeting or shadowed by unwanted side effects. Some of us have tried physical therapy, those repetitive exercises with rubber bands and stress balls, counting down the sessions in hopes of regaining strength and flexibility. Others have even considered surgeries they have to follow, and time in those exam rooms is always too short. But for people like us, who grew up watching mothers and grandmothers tend to wounds with salves and teas, it's hard not to feel that something precious is being left behind. And that's where the old ways come in. Those bits of wisdom passed down through the generations. Sometimes what we need is not found in a bottle from the pharmacy, but right in our kitchens or gardens. Our ancestors may not have had degrees on the wall, but they paid close attention to the body and the land. They knew which roots soothed the pain, which leaves calmed a fever, and how a certain oil rubbed gently into the skin could quiet an aching joint. You might be wondering, is there something special about these traditional oils? It's not just wishful thinking or old wives' tales. In recent years, science has taken a closer look at some of these remedies, especially the humble clove and the golden olive oil, a pairing that has been cherished in kitchens and sick rooms for centuries. Let's start with clove. If you've ever pressed a clove between your fingers, you know it carries a strong, almost spicy aroma, a scent that lingers long after you've set it aside. What gives clove its power is a compound called eugenol. Eugenol is a natural anti-inflammatory and mild anesthetic. When applied to the skin, it penetrates the tissues, numbing pain and reducing swelling. It's so effective that even today dentists sometimes use clove oil to ease toothaches and gum pain. But eugenol does more than just dull pain. Studies have shown that it can block the pathways in the body that create inflammation. In other words, it doesn't simply mask the problem, it helps address one of the root causes of arthritis pain. It calms the immune response that leads to redness, heat, and swelling in the joints, those classic signs that arthritis sufferers know all too well. Now, olive oil. It's more than a staple for salads and sautéing. High-quality extra virgin olive oil contains a compound called oleocanthal, which works in the body in much the same way as ibuprofen, the over-the-counter pain reliever. Oleocanthal reduces inflammation by inhibiting the same enzymes targeted by anti-inflammatory medications. But olive oil brings something more. It's gentle, nourishing, and packed with antioxidants that protect cells from further damage. It soothes the skin, softens rough spots, and provides a perfect vehicle for carrying the active compounds in clove deep into the tissues. Scientists today are beginning to recognize what our grandmothers already knew. The right combination of natural ingredients can provide real, measurable relief.
You don't need to take my word for it. Research journals are filled with evidence that both clove oil and olive oil can reduce pain, stiffness, and swelling in people with
extra time on the places that hurt the most. The scent is comforting and familiar, not harsh or medicinal. For many people, this simple ritual at the start and end of each day becomes more than a treatment. It's a reminder that you still have power over your pain, that comfort and relief are possible, and that healing can begin right at home. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment below to let me know that you are still here with me. These stories matter because they remind us that we are not alone. The world is full of people like us. Seniors whose hands have built lives, held babies, fixed cars, written letters, and baked bread. We are more than our aches and pains, and we are more resilient than we sometimes remember. The path to relief is not always straight or fast, but with patience, care, and a bit of faith in yourself, it is possible to reclaim the small joys that arthritis has threatened to steal away. The simple act of making and using this oil can be the beginning, not just of comfort, but of renewed confidence, independence, and hope. So, as you finish reading this, consider giving yourself this small gift. Take the time to make the oil, massage your hands with care, and believe, just for a moment, that good things can still grow, even in the most weathered soil. Let the stories of Amelia, Antonio, Marta, and Ramon inspire you. Your own story is still being written, one gentle, hopeful step at a time. As we come to the end of this journey together, I want you to take a moment and reflect on something truly important. The hands you have are not just tools, they are part of who you are. They've carried you through decades of memories, work, love, and care. Yes, arthritis may have made some days harder, and the pain may still linger, but it does not define you or your story. What you choose to do now, the small acts of care and kindness you show yourself each day, are the steps that can bring hope and healing. Remember, this homemade oil is not a miracle cure, but it's a powerful ally. Something simple yet meaningful that you can create and use in your own home. Alongside gentle exercises, a healthy diet, and rest, it can help ease your pain and bring back some of the freedom you deserve. You owe it to yourself to try, to be patient, and to trust in the small improvements that add up over time. Many have walked this path before you, finding relief and joy in things they once thought were lost. Their stories are proof that it's never too late to reclaim your independence and live a life filled with comfort and dignity. Your journey is unique,